wish I was meeting y'all today on good terms, kind of good terms. This is a hard one to do, and I'm doing it though. I'm doing it because I think everyone can relate. Everyone out there in the fishing world can relate to this. So I am gonna do it. Y'all know this is what I do, right? I'm doing it from a different place. I'm at my camp here at Rayburn. I had to come up here. They're doing some renovation up here. I'm gonna do another video on this for some other reasons, but they're installing a whole new place to where we're gonna park our boats. They're doing that right now, so I'm up here. And man, I'm not out there fishing today. It's blowing really, really bad today, and it's crazy. There's some things going on that I wanted to talk about. I decided to do them here only because what's in front of me. I gotta show y'all what's in front of me. So here it is. All right, so there for a while, we had just gotten this camp. For a long time, we just got a bunch of weird plaques and different things, always fishing tournaments, right? These trophies, whatever they might be, right? And for a while, when I was growing up, I wouldn't fish anything giant, right? We would fish big tournaments, but not these like FLW tournaments and stuff. So I used to hang all my plaques, when I was in college and all that stuff, like on my wall and all these things. And now I'd say about 90% of those plaques are just sitting in big bins when we moved. And I still got them all. There's probably, 100 of them, but that's where they're all at. Those, like from my not really college days, but days like that, right? All up in my, high school to mid-20s and stuff like that. Well, then we got a camp and we started getting more plaques. Right? It was like usually me, it was just a group of us, our little squad. It was like me and Billy, me and Brent, me and Russell, a lot of them. And this is where they went, right? And so they're just stacked. So this is like my little deal, right? I mean, there's a bass champ. I don't even know there's a second place bass champs on Rayburn in there. There's a first place bass champs on Rayburn in there. There's some boater, ABA, Open Series stuff. Picture, like just weird, 2015, whatever it might be. Texas Team Trail, Rayburn. I mean, that's a pretty big win, right? That was a brand new boat and everything else. Platinum Team Trail win. Right? Just third place, first place, second place, Toledo Bend. I mean, I don't even know what all is in there, right? Just Bass and Bucks, Bud Lights, just a whole bunch of different stuff, right? More of them. I mean, the first place right there. Like, we were like getting in some tournaments. Now, here's the crazy part. We just decided to keep whatever we had that were like kind of local for a couple of years, just right here. I wasn't bringing that home. I don't think my wife was going to be. I love the Eagle deal in a funny kind of way, right? But yeah, I'm not putting that up in my house. Whatever. So it just fits our camp, right? And so, man, that's just what we did. Now, those weren't FLW stuff. Those weren't even other things. Those were just, where if we went out there and fished a weekend tournament on Rayburn, this is where it came back to, right? All right. I bring all that up because I look at that and I'm like, man, we were, for quite a few years, that's how it was rolling, right? And I was fishing a lot, and I was trying. It was right before I went to the tour and fished the tour, me and Russell, and things were just lining up. Right? I had kids then, right? But they were kind of young and everything, and I don't know. And I look back going, man, we were on a roll, and we had been on a roll for quite some time. And then we went and fished the tour, and I basically didn't even fish Rayburn anymore. I fished Rayburn like less than 10 times a year. Never fished Toledo Bend hardly anymore. I went over there for the first time in 2 years the other day. So, and we like fishing other lakes. Like, we were still doing pretty good on other lakes. We still do. Even last year, a lot of my tournaments on Rayburn I mean, we were like making top fives in every event, it seemed like. And then last year, we didn't do bad. And it was crazy. Like, I don't even feel like it goes up and down. Like, I kind of had a good year, kind of not. But then I look back and I'm like, it was my most consistent year ever fishing the Toyotas and Opens. I made a check in every one. One angler of the year. But Rayburn didn't feel like I was really ever dialed in that much. And then this year has been kind of a struggle as well. And we did good last weekend on Toledo, so that was good. And I made a check in the first Toyota series, but it's crazy. And this is what I wanted to say is a lot of lakes aren't like this, right? A lot of places where you grow up. And I watch like some of these other tournaments, these bigger events, right? Where they go to places like Grand and other things. And Grand, I'm not saying is a prime example, but I've been to Grand a couple times, right? And what I've noticed on Grand is, and even talking to Hallman about this, Grand has still got some places that like you can always catch a fish, like a boat dock here or things here. And Rayburn is not like that. Rayburn's so different. Like so many of those tournaments where we won, I haven't caught fish in most of those places since then, right? Like it changes every year. And I always tell everyone, especially like every year you see guys do really good for a while. And then it changes, right? And I always tell everyone there's some guys on that lake that consistently catch them for the last 10 or 12 years, right? Those guys are always having to go out there and find new stuff. And it takes some time, it takes some effort. The difference is like the way the grass grows, hay grass, everything's always changing. Like it's really interesting. I bring this up because it can get you down. Like you can feel in like kind of a funk. And how do you get out of it? Because this year it feels as though it's crazy. You watch some of these guys, even on these major deals, and they're catching like a 6-pounder, right. You watch Bobby Lane, and I didn't get to really watch Red Crest. I was kind of watching a playback of it. These guys are catching like a 6-pounder to like win the event, right, or do something like that. Seems like this year I'm catching a 6-pounder to get a check, right? Like you do everything you can. Like you get a check, you do okay, and even this year. Everyone's like, how's it been? I'm like, man, it's been crazy, right? To be honest with you, I've been pretty consistent about doing the exact same thing. And what's crazy is I'm one of those guys, I'll change everything. I'll change my whole style of fishing. I'll try never to stay stagnant, right? Because I think that's how you get in a rut. So I'll go off the limb. I'll go fish different parts of the lake. I'll try. I'm like, you know what? This whole tournament, I'm not even going to do what I would normally do. I'm going to go do something else. And it seems like I've caught them every single time. You know, somewhere in that check to like right off the check cusp. And a check in some of these events is not like a check in an elite event or an FLW event where they're going to pay 50% of the field. No, man. Our events have like 250 people and they're paying like 30, 40 places. So it's crazy that you come in 30th place or 35th, like we've done some and whatever places we've come in. And I feel it is bad. But what's crazy is I beat like 200 other teams just to get there. So, but it's not that first, second, and thirds and fifths and whatever like that. So what do? How do you stay? Like, I've been in a funk like this, and I call it a funk. I've been in these deals where you're not fishing bad. Like, I don't feel like I'm fishing bad. And most of the time I would tell you is that most people get real stagnant, right? They keep trying to force the issue and do things. And what I've learned is I'll just keep like changing it up. Like, right? Like kind of going around. And what'll happen is it's only been a month or two and it hadn't been that bad, but it seems like we've missed it by a day or two, right? Or a week, or the water comes up and we were on something, or it's gotten cold front messed us up. And it's a hard place to find yourself in. Normally what I would tell you, fish more tournaments. just even fish more than you possibly can. Because what'll happen is you'll usually like climb yourself and dig your way out of it, and just trying to keep evaluating like what you're doing, right? Because in all those events, I would just keep changing, and it was like, man, I would catch even more fish in the next event, and I just couldn't catch a big one, right? Or I'd start figuring out how to catch big ones in practice, and it won't translate. And I've learned over the years, you gotta like trust. You gotta trust yourself a little bit, that as long as you're progressing with the sport, and that's what I've seen with these events up here, is that I always try to progress with it and stay ahead of the game. I always wanted to be the one that people were trying to catch up to, doing something different, figuring something out, and then everyone else trying to figure out what that is and catch up to it. And I think that's what I was doing back then. And it's very hard to do that now. And the reason is as it grows, the sport, and progresses further, there's so many more things you have to stay on top of. Back then, the technology and everything else, you were only having to learn something, once a year. Now it's like you gotta learn like 3 or 4 new things a year. With technology, you've got to with the baits and techniques, like it's expanding even more to where more of those things are able to win tournaments. So you got to stay on top of that and learn that, and that's what I've been doing. I've been messing around, not on local lakes. In my local lakes, I mean lakes that we don't even fish tournaments on. Like yesterday, I spent all day long yesterday trying out rods and reels and hooks and jig heads and different things. And I smashed on a whole bunch of fish yesterday, and a lot of 2-pounders on purpose. I was out there trying to dial everything in, because at the end of the day, when I catch fish, I don't want to be the one that's like trying to figure it out during the tournament. Like, this hook's no good, or man, this setup's not right. So I try to spend a lot of time out there figuring it out. And I don't go just based on, y'all know me, when I give recommendations out to things, it's because I went and spent a whole day catching 50 fish and go, yeah, I didn't lose any on that setup. Like, that setup's right. And that's what I did yesterday, And so now, when I go somewhere else, I'm not going to have to worry about that, right? I took my time, spent my time, did my due diligence on that stuff. And I'll probably come on here and tell y'all what that setup is. But yeah, man, looking around, it's a tough one. Trying to get out of, if you want to call it a rut. Ruts are different for different people. It's not that I feel like I'm fishing bad. It's like, man, you just look up and we've consistently done pretty good. Like, I've done pretty good in almost every tournament I've fished this year, in the sense of, when I say good is relative, right? I'm not out there winning every tournament. No one does. You got to kind of take a step back from it and go, hey, you know what? I fished pretty clean. Things haven't worked out. When things don't work out that great, and yet you still do pretty good in the event, you're like, okay, it'll come. And that's the deal. It's 2 months, big deal, right? It'll all come back around. But how do you stay out of it? It's all up here. I want to say I've been in these things before, and then all of a sudden you look up and everything starts becoming easy for you. And I have no idea why that is. And we talk about that momentum factor. Like, you see it. You see people with that momentum, and it's like they can't do anything wrong. And then all of a sudden, you don't hear about that momentum when those people start to struggle. You just hear about the other guy's momentum who's starting to do good. And it's weird. It's like you can just do anything you want to and it works. And it's not always like that. So how do you get out of that? Man, you just got to kind of put blinders on a little bit, and just keep going, because all of a sudden when it turns for you, you want to be there and be ready. And that's what I'm doing, right? I'm preparing all my stuff, making sure that when that thing comes, that when that momentum starts to build, I'm not out there losing fish because I didn't take the time to get my setup right or learn new things or whatever. I'm always just, if I can't, I know sometimes that momentum's hard to grab, right, when you're tournament fishing. So you got to wait for it, right? But in the meantime, Take the time and prepare yourself, prepare your boat, your equipment, everything else. Stay on top of all that, because usually the momentum you have is not usually anything you're doing wrong. It's just things don't work out that way, and that's okay. It's to all of us. Now, you don't want to look up in a year from now or 2 years and you stay in that rut. If you're staying in that rut for too long, that's usually because you're not trying to progress. And sometimes, like, you've got to throw out everything you know. Sometimes just throw it all out and go, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do totally different stuff. Not for an event. I'll tell you one little story. Years and years and years and years ago, Rayburn got weird for a little bit, and everyone was catching them. There were some guys, it got really hard. And I started figuring out like the drop shot and like really deep fishing on Rayburn and some things like that. So I went and did it. And I tried to do it in tournaments. Got killed to a degree, right? I got killed, and I wouldn't say I got killed. Let me take that back. I would catch a big one or two in practice, and it would never work out in the tournament, right? I'd go catch a bunch, but would never catch anything big. And I remember some guys from around Rayburn were like, why are you doing that? That's just like, that's not smart. And I'm like, and I look back at it going, I might get killed for a little bit doing this. But when I figure this out, and it might not even be for Rayburn, when I figure this out, I'm going to be able to take this technique and go anywhere I want to with it and have the setup, the knowledge, everything I'm going to take with me to go somewhere else. Yeah, I'm not going to go out there and win a tournament doing that technique sometimes, but I have taken that to Opens and Toyotas and even on Rayburn and some things and caught a fish or two here, right? Maybe just one or two that helped me along the way, like big time, like added a pretty good fish to my stringer. I look back going, it's probably because of all of them times that, yeah, I wasted a tournament here or two there learning it, but it was worth it in the end. Sometimes don't worry about the short-term result. I always look past that and go, hey, you got to tell yourself your expectation. Hey, I know what I'm about to do, and I know I'm not at that level right now when I go do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it just for a learning experience, knowing that sooner or later, it's all going to pay off. It will. I promise you, it will. Let's hope so. Anyways, yeah. Let's get back to work. Make sure these guys are doing everything, installing everything right out there. Check up on them. See y'all.